Action, a whole movie.
I'm a movie producer. Okay.
Okay, hi guys. Claudia's busy doing her nails, which is gonna come on the mic, which I don't think she realizes,
It's
but
not
okay.
coming on. I promise. It's not
Anyway, hazards. I did say we were doing 2 podcasts a week, so we're shooting back to back because we actually had a couple of topics that have come up in the last couple of weeks. One of them is a more sensitive one, and it's not as recent, but it's something that I think I have more context to now than I ever have had before. And it's this idea of abandonment. Man,
action.
action. So we're back. Hi. Claudia's back. I'm back after traveling and a hectic 3 weeks.
No.
We've had a hectic 3 weeks, and I think we've gone through our individual emotional roller coasters, but we're back. And I'm so happy we're back. Oh my God. Sorry, I have a little bit of tissue because we just came out of a very emotional moment. Tim Ross messes me up some days. And today was the worst day to watch this podcast before filming this. But I was waiting for stuff to download and so I can have space to actually record this. So, how are you, Claudia? Claudia?
Oh, you said it right.
I said it right last night. You didn't even notice.
When?
Last night when we were going to bed, I said it right. Just check the focus because I moved there now. I'm just trying to sit more comfortable.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, just click on my face again. Just stop. Look, guys, I got a jeans on and it's tight and I can't. Oh, let me breathe. Can you see?
No.
Okay, good. Hallelujah, much better.
Okay.
So, how you been?
Hey, it's been an interesting couple of weeks.
I think for both of us. So I did say I'm going to record a couple of podcasts today. So we're doing a lot of podcasts back to back because I am going through some stuff that I am deciding to shoot at the end of going through some of the processes. But what I wanted to start this series off, this next series of podcasts, is talking about like the realities of some things that we are refusing to face. And the big thing for me I've been battling with this thing for years, right? Is whether I speak too much about my personal life, whether I share too much, what I'm sharing, why I'm sharing it. I've been actually bashed by quite a few people for being too open about my life. I don't know what the limitations for openness are. I didn't know there was a rule, but apparently there's a rule, and I keep crossing the line on that rule. Particularly when other people come up. In this podcast, I've been very particular not to mention specific people. I do know that I've spoken about my past quite a bit and the people involved in my past. Unfortunately, they are part of my story. And it's very difficult to talk about my story without talking about them. However, I've been wrestling a lot in recent weeks about how much I do share. And it subsequently brought me to the decision of trying to be very concise with what it is I share, why I share, what I share. So a lot of the things going on in my current life and what I'm currently going through, specific nuances and particular things happening, I'm not going to share. And a lot of them I haven't actually. It just seems as though I've shared a lot of things because people think that is my whole life. When in fact, I've said this twice before that I only share 5% of my life. But the reason I want to talk about this is I want to cover something that I don't think people in general actually sit and think about. We all go through a journey in life. Whatever that journey looks like, it's your journey. But what humans don't give other humans grace to do is live through that journey, even if it's in public or online spaces. What everybody in my peripheral view who thought they were my advisors, because advisors are people I actually invite into my space. And as far as that goes, I literally only have 2 or 3 Is it even 3? No, 2 people. Yes, who are allowed in that space. Other people are not my advisors. I take what they say with a pinch of salt because I have close proximity enough to them to understand that they do not live the truth that they think they are offering to me, right? But people who think they are my advisors think they are advising me well has more to do with personal things for themselves than it actually has to do with what it is I'm supposed to do, right? So it's very easy to give someone advice through the lens you view the world. It's very easy to do that because you can't stop yourself from seeing the world the way you do unless you get on the other side or you get through it. So what I want to say is that we don't give humans grace to just live through their life. I share some of my life publicly. And I share that publicly because I feel like, number 1, South Africa, number 2, Africa, number 3, the world, want to live in a space of naivete that don't understand that we constantly put ourselves in harmful, dangerous, life-threatening situations, purpose-threatening. And for me, purpose and life are the same thing. If I'm not living through my purpose, I might as well die, right? So let's clarify that. But we put ourselves in life-threatening situations without recognizing that a lot of how to get out of these situations and out of these cycles is actually a responsibility that we have. So I'm living my day-to-day education, my day-to-day learning, my day-to-day healing online for those people who haven't gotten a chance to get onto that road yet. We are so, I don't know, we want to have, I think also because it's a fast-paced world, we want to have this, oh, that's your story, but look where you are now. We want to be at the celebratory stage at all times with everyone's experience, which doesn't make any sense to me because we invalidate the entire journey it took to the successful win. Success is relative, right? But we invalidate the entire journey when this person's whole success is actually the steps they took on this journey day to day. So everything that I share is my step to step, my day by day steps in my current journey. My journey has evolved throughout the last few years, right? I was who I was 10 years ago. I was who I was 5 years ago. I was who I was 2 years ago. A year ago, I was a different person than I am today, right? It would be so dumb for me to sit around being like, oh, life is amazing, life is great, we're just conquerors, when a lot of the time I'm sitting by myself and thinking to myself, I wish this would end. You know what I find interesting about a lot of people talking about the way that the Israelites complained in the wilderness is that they judge them because they don't want to know their part of the story. They want to know that they were rescued from the wilderness and got into the promised land. But all of the little things that God intentionally made sure were written in the Bible, they want to ignore. And the reason they want to ignore it because it's easier to pretend that wilderness doesn't exist while you're living through it. I have never been the kind of person who's going to be like, oh no, life is amazing, I'm doing well, God has got me, when I having a panic attack. In that moment, I'm not thinking, life is great. My faith is not where it needs to be in that moment. Let's be real. It's very, very frustrating to me that, number one, we reduce human nature. We reduce our faith down to this was your life and this is your life now. It isn't a quick fix. It's not like, it's not a life hack. The wilderness is not a life hack. It doesn't happen like that for anybody. For me, the 2 years that I've been through is 5 months for someone else and is 20 years for somebody else. We literally just came off hearing a story of someone who experienced that for 31 years until she got her healing. Right? That wilderness season is different for different people. But are we really going to be naive and believe that it's easier just to listen to the winds? Someone actually on my Facebook, which has gotten a lot more active lately, you can tell the undertones in something that someone says. If you're not tuned in enough, you won't pick up the undertones. But I got the undertones of this comment on my post. And what she essentially said was, she could have just said this straight up to me. And I would have been like, I know that's what you meant. Don't you think it's time that you just get over this now? Because, I mean, you're already on the other side. I was just like, my ego wanted to clap back instantly, right? But then I was just like, I get why you would think that. Because watching my journey take this long is hard for you. It's hard for you because you don't understand that one of the reasons I do this podcast, let's be honest, is because I'm an auditory processor. I process out loud. I can't process inside my head. All of these people who expect me to shut up and be silent about my story are expecting me to do what they apparently can do. I don't have the ability to do that. I know that about myself well enough. But at the same time, if I'm an auditory processor, why am I going to be telling my story in a way that doesn't give other people insight into what it is they may face? Then why am I even here? To get a job and die? Like, what's been interesting to me all my life has always watching people do you were talking about this last night, the white picket fence thing, the finish school, go to university, get a job, get married, have kids, get the house with the white picket fence. That is still so much, I think, of a South African and African narrative of how to do things, when in reality, none of that, especially in 2023, is even possible. Number one, you're not going to buy a house in this economy unless you know what you're doing, right? Eggs is expensive. Eggs is gold. But number two, why would you want to live like that? I'm not judging people who want that life and who live like that. They are happy then if that's what they want. I've never wanted that. I love living an exciting life. I don't want the glamorous life. I'm not interested in things. I'm not like superficial like that. Like nice things. I've been wearing the same clothes for the past 2 years and I really don't even give two craps about it. Like some of them have holes in. You won't know until I tell you. Okay. Like this stuff is dumb to me. But I want to live the experience of my life. Unfortunately, the experience of my life comes with really bad things that happen. I'm not going to choose to only share what other people feel comfortable with because they don't want to face the bad in their own lives. That to me is the wildest concept on the planet. The reason why we read books and why we are motivated by speakers is because preachers and speakers have gone through most of what it is they talk about on that stage. They just come out on the other side. I guarantee you that some way, somehow, they have had people in their life that they've been explaining and experiencing this journey with throughout. So a lot of what I've spoken about is actually literally bare minimum of what it is I share with both Claudia and with I call her my sister mentor, right? You guys see it all. Y'all see me crying, y'all see me broken, y'all see me confused, y'all see all of those things. But are we ever going to get to a point, I think, in this generation where we allow people to gracefully live through what it is they're going through? The only way you can effectively be available to someone emotionally is if you let them go through it, instead of expecting them to shut up until they're done. That's like telling food to not make noise while you're cooking it. Does that make any sense?
Don't sizzle.
Yeah, don't sizzle. You just make too much noise. We don't need to hear or smell you. We'll get an appetite when you're done. The whole point of telling through the journey is because so the appetite is wet for when the story is done, so you can look back on that person's life and say you can truly see God has been there. That's why the Bible tells stories not beginning and end. It tells the stories beginning, through, and end. Joseph's story didn't end with him going into a pit and then him seeing his brothers. all the in between was the meat, was the parts we needed to see him. We saw his humanity. We saw his gifts. We saw what God was able to do through him. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if every story in the Bible was just the beginning and the end? I'd be like, so what must I do with this? Because I don't even know how you got there. It's crazy to me. And I think the thing that's the craziest to me is that a lot of people actually do this. They try to shame you out of talking about the journey of your story because somehow you need to feel ashamed on their behalf. I'm not about to feel ashamed for nobody. Okay? Ever. You hear? Because this is the thing. I tell you this. I don't know if I've ever said this on camera. Have I said this on camera? That me and shame don't have a relationship. I think I might have once.
Yeah.
Me and shame do not have a relationship. I had to heal through choosing myself over shame.
You mentioned it with the circles of shame.
Yes, with the circles of shame. Because, girl, I do not akin myself to that. But this is the reason why. Shame is the enemy trying to prevent you from becoming who you're meant to be. Because the longer you're ashamed, the less opportunity you have to be vulnerably who it is you were authentically made to be. You were going to hide your authenticity because shame is going to prevent you from getting outside of that box you've created for yourself to stay in. I don't know why. Maybe I ask God this question sometimes. I don't know why I think very differently in this area. Because other people, when you bring that topic up, you watch them physically retreat from the conversation. I'm like, why are you running away? You know? The problem is, for me, living in a state of shame has always felt very suffocating. Hence the reason why this podcast is called The Muzzles Off. I needed to unmask what other people were trying to force me to mask. Because I don't see the need to sit in all of the things God is doing to and through me by myself. What? Like, that is the wildest idea to me on the planet. No, for real. Like, I don't understand why like, I get privacy. My life is very private. You know, there are things that no one will ever know because they don't need to. It's none of their business because they like to talk a lot and they like other people's problems. My life is private. You have an idea where I stay, but you don't know where that is. You don't know if I am clubbing at night, which, okay, the people who know me knows that's like not even a thing. But I'm just like, yo, see you later. I'm going to bed. But I mean, my life is very private. What I choose to share, I share because, not because of me. And you know, there's someone, and I'm going to say his name because I've known him for a very long time. And it's something that he said to me years ago. He said to me, his name is Darren August, and his wife actually posted about me. Tozawa posted about me, which was a nice surprise. But he said to me a couple of years ago, and it really made me think, you know that your story is not for you. And this is before everything happened, right? This is before my life completely turned into a ball of flames. And the more I've been going over the stuff that I share, the more I realize the information that I have, the things that God downloads in me, the conversations that I have, the meaningful interactions that I've managed to develop in the last couple of months, they are not for me. I am healing hard. I've gotten through so much, right? But once I'm done healing from it, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to put it on a shelf and say, okay, great, move on. Let's go get a job and sit in an office until I turn 60, and then what? God never puts you through a process for yourself, especially if you're young and you've gone through hell and you've gone through a lot of things. We want to reduce people to number one, the version of the story we've created in our head. So when they tell us the truth of the story, we dismiss it for two reasons. We are either ashamed of either our impact or our disregard for them and their personhood, right? This is why they shame you back when you're telling your story. or we just want to hear the win. So that when we hear the win, we can celebrate with you. Yeah, me and you spoke about this. I am not celebrating with nobody at the end of this that has not watched this journey. The truth is, I love Jesus a lot. And I love other people a lot. But I don't gotta like them. And I've said this before. But also I have to be honest with myself. A lot of the what is that? Lapis. A lot of the people I thought would walk by me in this journey, like I said prior, have chosen not to. I don't blame them. I mean, this story is wild. My life is wild. The way I choose to do things is wild. I have no regard for people's personal preferences when it comes to certain things. I'm just like, okay, you gonna deal, fine. I'm just gonna do what I need to do, right? I have no regard for that because at the end of the day, I'm not thinking about you. I'm thinking about the other people that are impacted. There are people I have to consider. And over time, I've gotten very, very careful with how I curate some of the things that I say to protect the people that are most important to me, right? And I'm also learning, especially hard in this last couple of weeks, how to honor people that have chosen to abandon me in this process. That has been a very hard shift for me, like super hard. But that doesn't give anybody permission to tell me to stop talking through my story. I actually, the comments that I was getting from people and the way that people had dropped me made me believe at some point, this was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, that I was actually saying to God, can this just not be my story? Like, I don't want this to be my story anymore. Because I feel like it's going with me everywhere. I feel like this is my label. I hate it. Because this isn't who I am. My story is becoming who I am when actually my story has made me who I am. We know this. We hear people talk about this all the time. But what we don't also resonate with the fact is, I didn't want this to happen. I didn't want to end up having to fight for my life, end up on the street, lose my children, lose my stuff, have to start from. I don't know. Why would I want any of this? Like, I don't want it. But since I've had to go through it, why am I going to shut up about it when someone else doesn't have the relationship with God that I have? And I've said this on my socials. If someone else, and on the testimonies that I did, if someone doesn't have the relationship with God that I have, they won't survive what I went through. And I can say that point blank. They would die. How I haven't died is wild and shocking to me. And let me just say this. On top of everything that I've gone through, where there's evidence, proof, people, all of those things, I'm still being told that I'm lying about my story. That I'm lying about my experience. So it's either I'm lying or I should shut up. What is it that you want from me? I just had to make a decision. This is my story. There's nothing I can do about it. I mean, this girl just spoke about it now in Tom's podcast. This is my story. There's nothing I can do about it. It's part of my life, part of who I am, and it will shape who I become as time goes on. It's already shaped who I've become in this process. But that's never, at this point of my life, at this state of my life, never going to be dictated by anybody's point of view of who it is I am. They can think who I am based on what I did in my marriage. They can think who it is I am based on the videos that I put on TikTok in 2021. They can think about it based on me having to sell everything so I can get into a shelter or something. They can think, literally they can think, but this is what I said on my post when I came back from Joburg last week, or the week before actually. If someone doesn't sit down and get curious enough and take the time to get to know me, they don't deserve context to my story. That's why this podcast is literally the bare minimum. People found out for the first time week before last that I ended up in a shelter because I shared it on Facebook for the first time in the way that I did. I got a lot of messages from people who had no idea. And I didn't share it because I wanted them to feel sorry for me. That ship sailed a long time ago. But I wanted them to recognize that the situation that put me where I was, they could literally be the cause of that happening to someone else. They could be denying that person's reality. This person could be telling you every day that they're being emotionally, physically, mentally abused. And because you can't see through yourself, you are allowing what's happening to them to happen. You could be walking past a homeless person every single day, and like that, the event that I went to, where the guy was saying, you are a dog. When you're homeless, you're a dog to people. They feed you scraps. They barely look at you. And on these Cape Town streets, they literally don't look at you. You're invisible. You could be the cause for someone's complete abandonment and be so egoic and egotistical and self-centered about it that you justify your behavior. Now, this is something I'm going to call out, and I'm going to call it out front, and people can say what they like, because at this point I don't care. When ministers in the faith, people who are toting Bible scriptures wherever they walk, who claim to have a relationship with Jesus, are the ones perpetuating this behavior, I'm sorry. There must be a point. There has to be a point where you have to recognize that you are not representing Christ. You are representing yourself with Christ as a cover. And I've heard more than 3 times this week, God cannot bless the representative. He can only bless the authentic you. If you're not authentically representing Him, you may have to check yourself. And that doesn't mean I'm perfect, because I'm nowhere near it. That doesn't mean anybody else is perfect, or that we even walk in the way that Christ did. That is the aim. That's what we're trying to do every single day. But the point is, if you are allowing yourself to get caught up in the idea that people are making stuff up for attention without actually sitting down and, number one, praying about what's going on with them, investigating what's actually going on, and possibly being the catalyst for rescuing them from a horrible situation, then what are you doing? My biggest issue, and I think the reason I always talk towards saved, Christian, born again, church going people, is because so many have actually turned into Pharisees. It's so easy to sit from a judgmental position when you've never been through something, because you don't choose empathy because somehow you need to be right. And yet your righteousness and self-righteousness is causing the abuse, harm, and complete disregard and abandonment of an entire other human being. Jesus left other people for one. He went to the woman at the well and told the disciples to leave. In Christian context, and I'm generalizing, that woman would be damned because she's a sinner and she's sleeping with married men, and all of those things are happening. When he went, I mean, who do we think we are representing here? We're walking around with Jesus badges on, and I can guarantee you he's side-eyeing us. And I'm passionate about this because I'm going to come down to this in this. I thought I was going to do this separately, but the thing for me is there is no more, I think, painful, worst, devastating level of abandonment than abandonment from what is supposed to be a Christian system or a church. You know, we are trained to believe as children that we must serve Jesus and we go to church and, you know, we form in community. There's nothing worse than thinking you're part of a community that spits you out the second they feel threatened by your honesty. Over and over and over again. Being in systems that spit me out because I'm going to call a thing like it is. I'm not going to hide behind your pretense, and I'm not going to hide behind the judgment. So because I'm honest with you, about what I've done, what I've experienced, and what it is I'm seeing in the world, you can't take it. Your ears are burning when your role is actually to be able to sit with these people, listen to their stories, and walk with them through it. Jesus walks with you. You don't walk with people, you chase them away subtly and then say, no, it's because they were disrespectful or they were this or they were that. It drives me nuts. This is why me going through my story like this has been so difficult for people to palate. It's it's not palatable for them because they will not face it the same way, but they don't have the introspection, or they can't do the self inspection enough to understand that empathy means I don't have to agree with what you said, I don't have to agree with the way that you did it, but I can empathize with your experience enough to understand that maybe at this time you need a community to surround you and walk you through this. Do you know what is funny to me also? Last week I recognized that I'm an auditory processor. I wouldn't have to have processed a lot of the stuff online. I wouldn't have had no reason to process a lot of what I've processed online and in public if I was surrounded by a community. I thought that was going to happen. I really, really believed it. I believed that when things started wiling out, I was going to be cocooned. Because I've seen this happen with other people. I've had friends go through this, and theirs one wasn't to the extent of mine because they were cocooned by either a church system or a family system or something. When that didn't happen, in the first couple of weeks, someone had called me and had a conversation with me and said the reason it wasn't happening was because of the way that I was sharing online, right? This wasn't the first time I'd been told this, and it wasn't the last time. So I've been told this repeatedly over the last couple of years. I've had some people really just come up in my face and say, why are you sharing all of that stuff? Now, look, to be honest, there's some stuff I just could have just not done. I was in so much pain, I couldn't think through any of that. I was just like, I am desperate. I need someone to help somewhere, understand what's going on. Like, I just needed to get someone because no one was showing up, right? But this is the thing. So, me and you had this conversation with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and I've been talking about it for a while. I started to think, okay, maybe my communication is the problem. I come across as very aggressive when I communicate with people, so I'm not able to resolve things because I talk through my pain. And then I realized I do come across as very masculine and aggressive with my tone, because by the time I'm talking to you, I'm angry and I'm hurt, and my hurt does not come off nice. But by the time I'm hurt, I've already attempted to talk to you 12 times, right? So I didn't even use that as an excuse. I actively sat and worked through how I communicate. So much so that I was planning how I communicate to the people that are important to me. And I had a wake-up call. Because for the longest time, the same narrative has been said to me over and over again. I'm the problem. Yeah, I'm the problem. The way you talk is the problem. The way you move is the problem. The way that you share is the problem. This is the problem. You don't do this right. You don't do that right. So I intentionally make a concerted effort at trying to change and fix my communication. And the weirdest thing happened. It turns out it wasn't my communication. It was just me. I am the face for everything a lot of people don't want to look at. I display a struggle, a battle of abuse that people don't want to talk about because I'm vocal about it. And because they are so shamed by the fact that some of them have gone through it without having to deal with it or doing what it is God had intended for them to do through it, the fact that I talk about it openly is humiliating to them. So even me changing my tone and changing the way that I address things and honoring them and respecting them through certain scenarios, what it did was actually bring to the surface their authentic selves. And that broke me because I had believed that I was causing them to reject me because of the way that I communicated to them, when in fact their authentic selves were hiding under the guise that I was the problem. Mind you, this is actually the catalyst for abuse. This is how abusers manipulate you into believing that you're the one causing the issues for so long. And because I've been in that situation for so long, obviously I'm going to take this step and be like, okay, let me fix myself, because that's my go-to. Let me fix myself. Let me see what I'm doing wrong. Let me change how I'm doing things. But when you start to do that, then the real things come to the surface. The point is, I'm going to keep sharing the way that I share. I am not going to run away from the fact that I'm still going through a process, that I'm still learning, that I'm still growing, that I'm still healing, that what I think today may change tomorrow. Oh my word, it seems so wild to the world that my opinion might change today based on what it was yesterday. It's like, oh, it's unheard of. You need to think the same for the rest of your life. The second you think the same for the rest of your life, you are not growing. You might as well die tomorrow, because nothing's going to happen, right? You're not going to be living your life. You're just going to be existing through it. I don't want to exist through my life. I want to live through my life. That means my opinions today are going to change in 20 years. The way that I think, the way that I feel, the way that I address things, even the way that I communicate on places and platforms like this is going to change in 20 years. Can we please get to a place where we have graceful people's journey? Because we are all on a journey. Self-discovery, growth, healing, relationship with God, family. All those things are going to evolve. Evolution is natural. I don't know why at some point we thought we're going to flip a coin and then it just fixes itself. And then people just need to keep quiet until it does. We know that overnight successes take years to become overnight successes. I started my talk show. One of the major questions for me was, I asked those people every single time, tell me what happened. The light died. It's fine. Tell me about your journey. Don't tell me about the end. What you want at the end means nothing to me. Tell me about your journey. You can't give me anything from an end perspective. You can give me tools. You can give me education. You can give me learning through the journey. And that's how I'm always going to share my stuff. So people are going to come back and be, oh, they're so tired of my story, or they're so tired of my thought pattern, they're so tired of... I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I'm not here for those people. I'm also very, very clear with the fact that I know a lot of young ladies, a lot of young women, a lot of young men who are currently just at the precipice of what it is I went through. It's not my responsibility to talk to them, but I feel like it's my mandate. Or else my journey would be for no reason. I want my children in 20 years to turn around, look at these videos, be slightly embarrassed, because, I embarrass them like that anyway. But at the same time, recognize that even through everything that I've been through, I was not going to keep quiet to make other people feel comfortable. While I know people need these words to survive. Even, like, I don't even watch who's watching what anymore. I'm like 20 people. There's literally like 20 people I think will watch this podcast. Between 20 and 80 on an odd day. Which is fine. One of those 20 people can decide not to take their life tomorrow because they can see that it does get better, even if it's just a moment by moment. And trust me, it can be really moment by moment. So, yeah. That was just me coming back, because I'm back with flames, and yeah, I came with a little bit of anger, so y'all gonna get a little bit of that.